Good morning, Martha. Let's get right into your attic and take a look. And the first thing, as I've mentioned, I wanted to point out to you is that in some of the locations around the attic at the knee walls, which you're going to learn about, the insulation has fallen down or has sort of come off the wall a little bit due to gravity. And you can rewind the video as many times. You can see the thermal image that aligns with where I was in the attic down there at the right bottom corner. And I also wanted you to notice here in this shot, I sort of slowed down on the way back there. You could see another piece that's sort of fallen. And that's just a little bit of the theme that's kind of going on around the attic there as we discussed. I next wanted you to get a bird's eye view of your bath fan and the fact that this is the hall fan, that it's vented, as you could see there, just to the ridge vent. And I wanted to dive into the fans a little bit and show you how we vent those. And you can see Kyle here. He's drilling a hole to create the place that we want to have the fan actually go out properly through the roof. That's the best way to do it to increase the flow of the fan. And you can see we take great care to make sure that we use the right tools and the right fittings so that when we do this type of work that you don't have any type of roof leak down the road. And you can see where we secure everything back and then we seal everything up with roofing cement. And when we get back in the attic, you can see that extension, that piece that sort of comes down, and that's what we hook the fan duct from the fan, of course, to that fitting and just make sure that everything is secured properly. Another step in the process is we insulate the duct. And in your case, it would be a little bigger, a little longer than what you saw there, but we certainly would do it the entire way. And then here you can see how we seal around the fans, and this is part of what I call air sealing, and you'll see the finished fan there, that short stack up to the roof. I also wanted you to notice exactly how much insulation you have, and I'm calling it 8 inches, of fiberglass rolled batting, which is equivalent to R17. And you could see there from the note, in Maryland, we want to be at R49. And that's looking at the back of your bathroom. That area there is a thermal image that aligns. That's basically where the paint is peeling, and you could see where the insulation was missing. So how do we fix the knee wall? Well, as you can see there in this photo, this is a common problem. Insulation is falling down on knee walls everywhere. But the first thing we do is we take the insulation down, as you can see, and we seal up all the cracks, and we use special techniques when necessary if there are larger gaps, because we don't want to just shove a bunch of foam in there. We actually want to block the areas that are larger, seal them. And once we've done all that and gotten everything nicely sealed all the way around the knee wall, even in the tight spots, the next step that you'll see here is that we actually want to take batt insulation, but we want to get it into those bays, those cracks, those crevices, nicely fitted. We don't want to have the insulation draped over those framing studs because, as I had mentioned to you when we were talking, the insulation needs to be in really good contact with the drywall. And then this is the final step. You could see how we button everything up. We get all the insulation in there nice and tight and snug and with the flex wrap or the sheathing. So this is an example of a wall, a larger wall, sort of like yours in an attic where we're working. And then now let's get in a little more to the air sealing. I was talking a little bit about that around the bath fan, but here you can see that there are a lot of different types of penetrations. This is, of course, your attic. And what you see there is a plumbing stack or plumbing vent. The plumbing, believe it or not, I didn't even know this, runs all throughout the house, through walls and then up through the roof, because a portion of plumbing is, of course, air. So as you can see, it's a little tough to see from the camera image, but where I removed that insulation, there's just a big gap around that area. So this is how we seal around all the gaps, cracks, crevices. This attic doesn't have any insulation, so it's a great way to see what we do. course, in your situation, we just have to move the insulation out of the way when necessary to get to the right spots. But you can see the idea here. We're sealing up all the holes, crevices, cracks, everywhere where electrical runs down through walls. This is a plumbing penetration in this particular house. You could see how we seal around that because, again, as we discussed, we just want to make sure we disconnect the attic from the inside of the house. So your attic has a lot of these knee wall features, and we discussed that as well. So it's a big part of some of my focus. And you could see there where the insulation is just, again, kind of falling away. It's a little bit tired, and we just want to make sure we seal that, wrap it up nice and tight. And this is an example of a skylight that we wrapped. And you can just see how we like to get that nice and tight and snug and sealed up with the foam so that as little air can get through as possible. So now I want to take you back over to the hatch, and I want to show you how we treat a hatch. And we use a rigid foam board, and you can see Ivan, he'll measure according to the size of your hatch and cut the foam board appropriately. We stack the pieces together and we make sure that everything gets married together. So it's one unit. We glue the hatch that you have onto that insulation board. And then the last step is to put a little bit of weather stripping around the lip or the edge so that when that hatch is sitting in that opening, it's not only got the insulation running continuous now across that attic plane or that attic floor, but you've also got the ceiling there, the weather stripping to keep the air from flowing. And now, as I mentioned, this is a little trickier. There's two things going on back in this area above your closet. Number one, I just wanted to point out to you, as I mentioned, that this is where that bath fan from the first floor comes up, and you can see how it's disconnected. And I should have mentioned this to you, but it's not as big a concern. More so is the cold air or the air communication. And the reason it's not as big a concern that it dumps to the attic is because it's not a major moisture source. So I wanted to also just point out, just so you know exactly where I am in your attic for reference. And then back to it, the reason I wanted to do that is I mentioned to you also that there was sort of an interesting gap in the wall between your neighbor and your bathroom. And that's it. And I think what's going on there in retrospect and looking at it a little closely is that there's insulation in there. It's just sort of falling out. So my solution there would just be to, again, going back to the concept of blocking and sealing, we want to use that foam board and block off that crevice that you saw and seal it up just to prevent air from getting down into that cavity in between the wall with the bathroom. This is just a look at how we blow the insulation, and we blow it beneath the baffles. So ventilation in the attic is a big question, so I wanted you to see how that works. Those baffles maintain the airflow, and then you can see what a well-insulated attic looks like. You can't really see anything at the attic floor. It almost looks like the moon in a sense. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this video is helpful, gives you some better perspective on what's going on in your attic. And certainly if you have any questions, you can let me know. Thanks a lot for watching.